Where's the focus, Doc? Where are you focusing yourself? Where are you focusing your team? Where are you focusing your people? Here's the truth. You are the CEO. It's your responsibility to direct the focus. There's a conversation that's happening all around you, all around your practice, all around your business.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And today we are charging ahead. Like buffaloes, we are charging into the storm, and we are going to be digging in today to the importance of leadership in times such as this. There's never been a more important time, we've said, to be a chiropractor than today. The whole world is having a conversation about health. They're having a conversation about viruses and disease. And we're seeing now in these last months how our world has been so exposed of what their beliefs are, what their understanding is on what health is. And we took a very specific position early on in the pandemic in March, if you remember, with the Phoenix Plan. We took our position and we said it's about the strength of the host. We chose to change the conversation, if you remember, from the strength of the virus to the strength of the host. And how important was that for you and for your communities, that you and your practice took a position, a proactive position, that leadership position who is proactive, who is seeking the opportunity and looking to serve others. That's the leader's position. And we chose that path, and we laid out a plan, the Phoenix Plan, in April and May and June. And we deployed that strategy. If you remember, it was stabilize. It was stabilize yourself, then stabilize your team, then stabilize your patients and in your community. And we did that, and we had a message that came with that stabilization. After that, we went into reactivation, right? We started to reach back out to the people because the people were getting so caught up in the energy of the moment. And there was a lot of fear and uncertainty, and there was so much unknown. And so because of that, people had to respond in the ways that they felt were most aligned with where they were at in their life. And then from that, we all kind of learned a lot more about what was really going on. And we knew what the next steps needed to be, which was we needed to mobilize. We needed to say, you know what? In our healthcare system, it's about level 1 and level 2 healthcare. It's about disease treatment and disease prevention, which are absolutely necessary. Disease treatment, it's all about saving lives, right? And that's what it's about. It's about keeping people alive. And then there's disease prevention, which is all about keeping people safe. And those were the main conversations, really the only conversations happening through the whole pandemic. And yet we showed up on the scene, chiropractors, committed to a brighter future for humanity. The same commitment that BJ left us with the sacred trust that he talked about. And we brought the message of third tier healthcare. And I know that all of you remember this. And if you didn't, listen to those podcast episodes, or you're not following us in our private Facebook group, I really would encourage you to go back and listen to those episodes, because I know they're still relevant right now. We're here, we're in the beginning of the fourth quarter of 2020. It's been a wild ride this year. And right now, if you live in America, North America, this is election season. So there's so much going on from an energetic standpoint. There's destructive, there's constructive, there's all this energy that's going on. There's a real fight. There's a battle going on for position, for authority. And what we want to devote this podcast to, Doc, is to you and to help you understand how you can position yourself right now, whether you're in North America, in the US, or you're on the other side of the world. We know we have so many of you who listen from Australia and New Zealand and the other sides of the world. Wherever you find yourself, in Europe or, South America, Central America, we know that right now, Doc, that what's happening in America is going to impact the whole world. And we know that the conversation that's happening here and the decisions that are going to be made in this nation right now are going to impact this whole world. So we're going to spend some time just digging into best practices and what you can be doing right now to position yourself, whether you're in the US or you're somewhere else around the world listening to this, how to position yourself, how to campaign as a chiropractor in your community, because your community desperately needs you and your leadership and the message that you stand for. So I'm excited to introduce to you, and we are excited to introduce to you the newest party, the third party. Dr. Franson, excited to dig into this today.
Yeah, Dr. Pete, it's such an important CEO conversation. This is a cultural thing, right? So as a CEO, we know that your job is to determine what's important now, right? So what's important now, right? So when you're talking to your team, when you're talking to your patients, what you're saying is this is what we're going to focus on, right? So you are the human magnifying glass that's gathering all of the sunbeams and pointing at where you want the fire to start. Like, this is what we're focusing on now. You're either taking that leadership role or you're not. That's your job as the CEO, is to gather up all that energy and direct it where you want the fire to start. This is what's important now. This is what we are going to focus on. If there's one dominant, theme that came out of 2020 so far for most of us, it's probably can be summed up in the very famous and popular expression, WTF, right? So WTF that's hashtag WTF for 2020, which is where's the focus? Where's the focus, Doc? Where are you focusing yourself? Where are you focusing your team? Where are you focusing your people? Here's the truth. You're the CEO. It's your responsibility to direct the focus. There's a conversation that's happening all around you, all around your practice, all around your business, throughout your community. There's a conversation that's going on. That conversation makes its way into your practice through your patients and through your team, and maybe through you. So you don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate, right? So what is the conversation that you're tolerating in your team? How about the conversation that you're having in your head? So WTF, where's the focus? As the crowd comes in through the front door and they're talking, it's been an interesting experience and a fantastic exercise for us as teams, as leaders, to develop the muscle of the redirect as people have come in just consumed by this topic of the COVID crisis, right? Consumed with fear, anxiety, stress, confusion, right? They come in and it would be very easy for you, and especially for your team, to just slide into this commiseration and get sucked into the negativity and the panic, right? And the destructive habit. This has become habituated, right? If you let it, if you tolerated it, or maybe you said, this is a perfect opportunity, right? So we've got all this energy around health. At least people are having the conversation around health. We don't have to get that conversation started. We just need to redirect the conversation, right? So we're not going to get sucked into the distraction. We're not going to get sucked into the confusion and the chaos. What we're going to do is we're going to step in with certainty. We're going to step in with conviction. We're going to shine a light with clarity and make sure that they understand a clear path ahead and a path ahead forward. Right. So what a great exercise. And I'm hoping that you and your team really have developed that muscle of the redirect and recognizing that, man, this conversation is going on all around us and we can't ignore it. So there's really three choices. You can participate in it and commiserate and get pulled down into that destructive negativity, or you can ignore it, make pretend it's not happening. And at best, you're going to be irrelevant. But I believe that not communicating is communicating. Right. So if you don't take a stand, people are going to make assumptions. Right. So, or you can say, third choice is we're going to take a stand. And I'm going to take this opportunity right now to say, this is where we stand. This is what we stand for. This is what we stand on. This is the granite block, the foundation. We are rooted in an understanding of a truth. We not only know a truth, we actually know the system. We know the process, procedures. We know the strategies, the tactics. We know the protocols of what it takes to get the outcomes that you're looking for, the better outcomes. And we called it third tier healthcare, right? And we had a position statement, and we were able to equip our patients to give them back hope and give them personal responsibility. That is the role of the CEO. So here we go, Dr. Pete. Round two. Because the storm is not over, right?
Yeah,
the storm is not over, and I love that you brought up the buffalo, right? So because what we called for with our remarkable doctors was buffalo leadership. we talked about this with the American Indians used to relate to their leaders, or would refer to their leaders as one of 4 types of animals, and how the animals behaved on the prairie when a storm came. They talked about the birds, they talked about the prairie dogs, they talked about the cows, the cattle, and they talked about the buffalo, right? The birds, if you were a leader that acted like a bird leader in the storm, when the storms came down out of the mountains and onto the flats, onto the prairies, if you were a bird leader, you would flee. If you were a prairie dog leader, you would look for the hole and you would just hide. You would go underground and you would hide, hoping that it was just going to pass and be over. Now, if you were a cow, if you were a prairie cattle leader, if you were a cow leader, then there's an important distinction between the cows and the buffalo. Although they shared the plains, they shared the space, they'd be grazing together. But when those storms came in, they behaved very, very differently as animals. And these leaders behave very differently. The cows will try to turn and run away from the storm. Okay, and the dynamic there is that as they turn and run away from the storm, of course, the storm's carrying overhead and is traveling faster than those cows can sustainably travel. So inevitably, they'll end up spending more time in the storm. And very often they'll perish because they cannot outrun the storm. They get exhausted, it wears them down, and very often they'd end up buried in snow. The buffalo behave very differently. The buffalo, when they see those storms coming over the horizon, they come down into the valley, they turn and they charge at the storm. They know there's no avoiding the storm, so they face the storm head on, and they charge right at and through the storm. And as they're going in 2 different directions, they accelerate the passing of the storm, and they cut right through it, and the storm goes beyond, and they thrive on the other side of it. So this situation that we're facing now with the distractions ahead, again, is going to call for buffalo leadership.
Okay, let's take a quick break and talk about Chiro Match Makers.
Chiro Match Makers will help you find the right person for the job. If you're looking to hire the ideal chiropractic assistant, Chiro Match Makers will help you find the specific person missing from your team so that you can get back to using your talents to serve more people. Or if you're looking to hire the ideal associate doctor, CMM can help. Chiro Match Makers helps chiropractors like you find the ideal associate doctor to unlock your practice potential and get you the freedom that you desire. To learn more, go to chiromatchmakers.com.
And now let's jump right back into our conversation. This is so powerful, Doc. I love the imagery here of the bird, the prairie dog, the cow, and the buffalo. And I think if we look at our practices and you look at your business over this past year, and you were to identify yourself with one of the animals, where would you say you were as an individual leader? Where were you as an organization? Where was the members of your team? We've been through a storm, a storm like no other. It's a Pearl Harbor moment where the bomb got dropped. And then we're dealing with the winter season, that long tail afterwards, and we're still in the middle of it. And so even if maybe you didn't respond initially, there's still time to turn it around. So our invitation and our positioning here is saying, we need you to be a buffalo. That's who you are. That's who you were created to be. As a chiropractor, we already swim upstream. We already are going against the tide as principled, vitalistic chiropractors, teaching a message of third-tier healthcare, teaching people about empowerment and how to take responsibility for their health, giving people their lives back, giving people the message of above, down, inside out, teaching people about how they were made and how they are designed to heal. And we've been already, going against the grain. You've already taken that stand as a chiropractor. You're not a second-class citizen. You are the gatekeeper for true healthcare. Chiropractors are. And so knowing that that's who you are, that is your position, that is your calling, that is what is your responsibility, then it is only aligned, it's only congruent then for you in times like this to charge ahead, to be the light, to be the voice in your community, that your mayor should look to you, that the city council people should be calling you saying, Doc, what should we be doing right now during this time? Now is the time to continue to step up, to make sure that, again, if you haven't done this already, be calling your local leaders and telling them asking them how you can support them and sharing with them what you know and what you're for, and giving them insights of what they can be doing as leaders. Because, in this time, many leaders were searching. They didn't really know what to do and how to respond because no one had been through this or done this before. And so it's a very unique time. So Doc, one of the characteristics of going from the build season into the scale season as the CEO is there's two major shifts. We do the identity shift, which is we go from being an owner operator to becoming the CEO, which is a change of perspective. We talk about going up on that perch. It's gaining a new perspective. It's going from that laborer to that leader. And that's where our identity was so caught up in being a laborer. And we change and say the leadership now identity is where I'm going to focus. And then the second transition was going from owning a job to owning that business. And we know that businesses are defined by being scalable, durable, and transferable. Well, one of the key terms that defines the scale season is the term leverage. And so what a CEO does is they use leverage. And this time, right now, as a CEO, it's absolutely critical that you leverage the cultural consciousness, you leverage the conversation that's happening right now, not to be derailed and pulled into it, but to leverage the conversation as an opportunity to speak into people's listening, to speak into them as a leader, speaking a relevant message, because people are listening. They're listening to, let's call it, both parties, so that they can decide which way they want to go, which path they're going to follow. So it's the perfect timing and perfect setup for you, because the cultural consciousness is thinking, it's awake, it's considering, it's pondering, it's going to make a decision. And because of that, it's the perfect time for people to be thinking about the decision that they make about what they do with their health moving forward, what they do with their family's health moving forward. Even if at one time in my life I went this way, I'm actually making a change and I'm going to go a new way. It's possible. We see it happen. We see it happening. So being a CEO means using leverage. And at a time like this, Doc, it's leveraging the cultural consciousness. It's leveraging the conversation. It's leveraging not being derailed or distracted, but actually saying this is a time to take a stand. And this is a time to promote what I am for. And I'll tell you, talking with Dr. Franson about what he and his practice have done historically around in election years is just awesome. So Dr. Franson, I mean, this is deep and heavy kind of things, but we're going to have a little bit of fun right now. I want you to share some stories, because, coming from the Northeast, it's a politically, I would say, hot and heavy area to be. If you're in the Northeast, it's just thick up there. So kind of, I know some stories. I'm sure you're going to tell some things I never heard before, because you're about to unpack for us. So just kind of share a little bit about how, as a leader, this is such an important, how to leverage times like this successfully.
All right, so let me give you a little window into what we would do at election time in our practice. So I'm going to say presidential election, because that's when all the hype was going on. Like you're experiencing right now in your practice. If you're in North America, you're sensitive to everything right now is about the election, and it's got an incredible emotional charge on it. It has eclipsed every story, right? So this is what people are hearing. This is what they're thinking about. This is what they're talking about. So you can, again, choose to avoid the conversation, or you can commiserate and just start, the negativity downsliding, or you can decide to say, hey, you know what? Let's take a stand, right? So I was chomping at the bit every time there was a presidential election going on. And, I would start campaigning as soon as I was reelected as chiropractor. So, Pete, I'll tell you that we had a lot of fun with this. We had so much energy around the election time. I knew that it was just such a perfect opportunity for us to say, let's make a declaration. Right? Let's make a declaration. Let's create a formal declaration of our platform. This is where we stand. This is what we believe. right? This is what we believe as a business, as a group, as a people. This is what I believe as a doctor, as your doctor. This is what we believe as a team. This is where we stand. We took a stand, so people really respond so well to that. It's like, you should not be afraid to be polarizing in a situation like this. You should be terrified not to be polarizing, right? So people love black and white. They love contrast. They want to know, where do you stand and what do you stand for? You should be casting your vision in such a way that it compels some people to join you and compels others to leave you and go find somebody else where they share their core values and they buy into their vision story. I'm never afraid to cast my vision and cast it in a way where it attracts the people that I know are looking for what it is we do, right? So make sure that you take a bold stance, because it's the person that casts a bold vision that people respond to, that resonates. What they're listening for is that certainty, that conviction, that clarity. Establish your platform and put it out there. Say, this is who we are and this is what we stand for. We're against this and we're for this. We build this up, we break this down. This is why we exist. This is the mission manifest. So I'm going to encourage you guys, man, when we had a blast with this, we would go through all the formality of putting our position statement forward. It was highly relevant, right? And it was speaking into them. It wasn't about us. It was about them. It's about your community. And it's the same thing we're doing right now for the Remarkable Practice, for our doctors. So just, let me just say to you guys right now, if you're not in the Remarkable Practice, our free private group on Facebook right now, inside of our free forum, you're going to want to be in the forum for the next 6 weeks because this is where we're going to be laying it all down. You got to get in to the Remarkable Practice free private group on Facebook, because we're going to be just spoon feeding the positioning statement, the assets, the elements, the inspiration, the ideas, the videos, the files that you can use yourself to repurpose or edit yourself, et cetera. So all the goodies are going to come through there, and it's sort of outside the scope of a podcast episode, but I just want to let you know, I'm not just going to tease you about this. We're actually going to be providing it for you. So jump into the Remarkable Practice group on Facebook. So Dr. Pete, we would go after it. We made t-shirts. Like you always see, I've always got some t-shirt on. Well, I love making t-shirts. What a great, simple way to express beliefs, right? So we would have posters in the office. We would have it all blown up. We'd have our social media posts, blog posts, do podcasts about it, radio shows about it. There would be articles, flyers. You'd be tripping over it in the office. We'd have PowerPoint decks up. We'd have every monitor in the office running our platform. All of our positioning statements specifically around health, healthcare, the wellness, lifestyle, et cetera. And like I said, we're bold and direct and straightforward, and our people loved it. We had hats made up. We had bumper stickers made up. We had pins made up. The office, of course, was decorated with streamers and flyers and flags. Man, the polling signs where you get a group of supporters to stand around with your name up on the sign. We had big, like I'm showing right now, if you're on YouTube, you can see it. We had Franson for chiropractor signs made up. And of course it was fun because Camilla Franson and Stephen Franson, both of us in the office. So, we'd have a little vote off on that. We'd allow people when they checked in to vote which chiropractor they were voting for. It was just so much fun. We had the polling signs, the voting signs. We had them made up by a printer, put on sticks, and there was a big barrel of them at our door. So when people would check out at the end of after they got adjusted, we would encourage them and ask them if they would go stand at the end of the driveway with these sticks with the signs on them. So we'd have a cluster of 15, 20 of our patients out there while everyone else had signs up for their respective, political party, whoever their presidential candidate of choice was. And there would be a whole cluster of our crazy people standing there cheering with Franson for chiropractor at the end of our driveways, which had like 30,000 cars a day going by it. So, man, we just had so much fun with it. And it all built with so much energy through a series of about 3 or 4 or 5 weeks to a big event where we did like a convention style live event. So people would bring people from all over and we would have a big celebration. It was so positive and so loving and so encouraging. And we gave people back hope and strategies, and they could see what we now call third tier healthcare. We empowered them, we equipped them, and we gave them back and invited them to take back control, influence, and personal responsibility for their health outcomes.
I love it. I'm just imagining the streamers in your office and the people coming in, and we talk about energy is everything, guys. And I'm telling you, energy is everything. And this alone is such a strategy. You want to talk about how to grow your business, how to create more understanders, more raving fans, more just creating more retention in your practice, as well as just an attracting factor that's just unprecedented. I mean, if you have such a bold stand as a chiropractor, I mean, people are just going to start showing up at your door because you're putting out so much energy. I mean, just think about all those details. You might think, some of you may be thinking like, how much is this going to cost? And like, that seems like a lot. And how is it going to happen? And listen, you got to think bigger. You've got to think bigger right now. Like, I think some of you are thinking too small. I just really felt that when Doc, you were talking, there's a conviction that I have, and I think this is going to be very relevant for some of you. You've allowed yourself to think too small about who you are and your position. And it's time to take the lid off, to start thinking bigger, start going bigger. Until you go big, when you go home, you don't really experience the fulfillment. I really believe that. Like, it wasn't until I feel like for me, I just took the hand gloves off and just went for it, that it was like, this is where it's at. And it's so compelling that people have to pay attention. How do you get people to pay attention? You light a fire. You gotta light the fire. And this is fire lighting time. You're igniting a fire around something, and people love to come in and watch a fire burn. So man, let it burn. Let your message, let it loose. Like, let it go. Some of you, I'm just telling, man, it's a podcast. I feel like I'm on a coaching call, but you've got to let it go. Some of you are just, you're going with the brakes. You got a foot on the brake. You're just not going. I'm talking, put it in the gear, press accelerator, and go. And right now, it's third quarter, going into fourth quarter, whenever you're listening to this podcast, but we're releasing it right around this transitional moment. And it's an election season. It's the end of 2020. It is a significant time. Press on the accelerator.
Dr.
Now is the time.
This is huge.
So
what
important.
You're describing right now is huge. And, with love, I hope some people are convicted right now, because we're coming out of this wonky, funky season where people don't know how to behave. Right? There's chiros that we work with every day that when they first walk into the Remarkable Practice, they're like, whoa, what is happening here? How come you guys are having best months ever? June was best month ever. What are you kidding me? July was best, even better. August was better than ever. Like, we are seeing this. They're like, what has happened? I'm like barely trying to get by. I'm trying to sneak through another week in my office before they tell me that I can't do something else, right? Listen, when you practice like that, that is like riding a bicycle slowly. Riding a bicycle slowly sucks. Have you ever tried to ride a bike really slowly? It is awkward, wonky. It takes a ton of energy. It's wobbly, and anything could knock you over. Listen, guys, like Dr. Pete said, it's time to stop pumping the brakes, drop that thing in gear, and go downhill. Let's go. Let's start pumping I want you to pedal hard. This is the time right now. You should be able to go no hands, eating a sandwich, firing down the road. Riding a bike fast is easier and it's more fun. This is your opportunity to hit the accelerator. This is the time right now when everyone is going to be looking for some level of clarity and leadership, a path forward. Don't get pulled into the distraction. Harness the energy. Crank those pedals and start talking about third-tier healthcare. Step into the conversation. If you want us to help you do this, all of the resources, all of the know-how is going to be shared with you in our free private group in the Remarkable Practice. So go on Facebook, the Remarkable Practice group. You're going to want to follow it through the month of September. We're going to be talking about how to make America healthy again. We're going to talk about the Vitalistic Party, right? We've got the Republican Party. We've got the Democratic Party. We got the elephants. We got the donkeys. Well, we're introducing the green buffalo, right? So the green buffalo and the Vitalistic Party. We're talking about third-tier healthcare. We're talking about make America healthy again. If you want to learn what that's all about, join us in the free private group all through the month of September. Let's get ready for you to knock the doors off and fire things up for the month of October so you can harness all the energy that will be invariably happening with everybody's practice all around in North America. Let's get into that conversation, redirect the conversation. Don't be distracted. Don't let the distraction take you. In fact, take action and redirect it and make October, November, December, the fourth quarter, your best quarter ever.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.